We will call the January 3rd, 2023 Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Barry?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Bo?
Here.
David?
Here. We have a quorum. We'll proceed. Please rise for the pledge. Okay, that brings consent agenda. What are the wishes?
Motion to approve is presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Barry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Bo?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carried. We have one bid opening. Beth, is that you?
Yes. We put out a notice of public offering of sale of oil and gas lease that we brought last couple meetings ago. And we published it in the newspaper and we received one bid. The contracts we received were from Hess. We got, a bid from Don Jones. He's an agent, for Hess Bakken 2 LLC. And he would like to submit a bid of $500 net mineral acre for the published lands in Golden Valley Township. And so I need a motion to accept Hess's bid of a bonus of $500 per net mineral acre plus publication costs, subject to 20% royalty and 3-year term, review of the lease by Assistant State's Attorney Karen Prout, and authorizing County Auditor Beth M. Minus to sign lease.
Does anybody have any
acres was it,
questions?
Beth?
How many acres is it?
Hang on. What was it, Karen?
I don't know. It's just strips of land, actually,
They're just strips of land.
of County Highway.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, guys? What are the wishes?
Make a motion to approve.
And authorize,
Authorize Beth to sign, yes.
Second.
moved and second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Steve?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Bo?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Motion carried. Planning and zoning, you are up.
Good morning, Commissioner. Sam Miller with County Planning. Happy New Year. So first on the agenda, we have LU-0105-22. Ed Rentamaki on behalf of Michael Hodenfields requesting a zone change to rural residential for a proposed approximately 7.16 acre lot. You can see that it's in green on the screen. The parent parcel is a quarter section, so it's 160 acres, and it's currently within the agricultural zoning district. There used to be a home on this property. You can kind of see it in the aerial image. There is like what was left of a foundation, and he's just parceling it off, I think, to eventually sell it. And the primary use would be for a residential home on that approximately 7 acre lot. The lot has access off of 42nd or that 123rd. Both of these roads are section line roads, so if there were to be a home placed on this property, they would have to meet that section line setback. The plat is going through the review process and is currently awaiting recordation contingent upon approval of the zone change. The zone change, like I said, is just for that smaller lot. The remainder will remain in that agricultural zoning district. The township recommended undecided, so I called the chairman just to get a better understanding of what their thought process was while reviewing this proposal. He was just a little bit confused about what a subdivision in general was, if this was going to lead to more subdividing of this parcel. And then I think his main concern was just a full build out of like homes in this area. I just reassured him that that wasn't the case. If there were to be further subdivisions, they would go through both township and then come to both the Planning and Zoning and Board of County Commissioners. He wanted to keep his recommendation undecided just because I just spoke to him. I didn't speak to everybody, and he didn't want to change the recommendation just himself. So that was kind of that summary of that conversation. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this on December 15th. They recommended approval 7-1 with the 2 conditions listed, so recordation of the plat and then adherence to all zoning and subdivision regulations.
Anybody got any questions?
Just one, was there a reason given why the one voted no?
From what I can remember, well, there were 2 things. So it is a flag lot, which is an irregular lot design. We don't encourage those kind of subdivisions, but so it's just not good planning practice to have a flag lot, because if you access it from the pole portion, you can't see, let's say someone puts their home behind the other home, you can't see that there's another home. So like for emergency purposes, if someone was like trying to find the second home behind the flag part, you wouldn't really be able to see that. But since this has 2 access points, it makes it a little bit different. And then also, there was like some conversation around allowing these farmsteads to be separated from the farmland. And to be sold off to non-family members.
Ed, do you have anything to add? Okay. Anybody got any other questions?
I would make a motion to approve following Planning and Zoning's recommendations, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Roll call, Beth?
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next on the agenda is LU-0110-22. Greg Zavalny, on behalf of Horizon Resources, is requesting a conditional use permit to store propane for the purpose of sale on a portion of an existing 160-acre lot. So, Ryan, if you don't mind zooming in, there's an existing little pad there with a tank already located on the site. So they're going to be repurposing that tank, which currently stores anhydrous, and placing propane in the tank. So how their operation is going to work is a truck transporting propane will fill the tank. Another truck will extract the propane out of the tank to be delivered to customers in the area. They are only expecting about 1 or 2 trucks per day, which won't really be any different. It won't change the character or the use of this site currently. The conditional use permit is allowable within the agricultural zoning district, so all other agricultural operations can continue to exist on the site as the propane is being transported in and out. The applicant will, we've been in communication with the Williams County Fire Inspector, and he'll just have to continue communication with him and then receive approval once everything's been converted to the ability to store propane. So like I mentioned, it's an 18,000 gallon tank that's used for anhydrous that will be converted to store propane for Horizon Resources. The Horizon Resources staff won't be utilizing any more of the site that's already kind of graded and existing. There is a representative, Mr. Zavalny is here. If you have specific questions for him, there's just 3 conditions that were recommended for approval. along with their 8-0 recommendation. One is the approach permit from County Highway Department. They could already have an approach permit. I would imagine that they do. This comment is simply just for them to check in with the county highway to make sure that everything's good to go. Number 2, approval from the Williams County Fire Inspector for the storage of bulk fuel, and then to adhere to all zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations.
Have you got anything to add? Greg, do you have anything to add to that, or? Okay, any questions, guys?
I see on this one page that it says they would like to have the option to add another tank. Is that part of this proposal as well?
So no, they're just getting the 18,000 gallon tank, which is what the one currently is. So if they were to add another one, they would just come back for a CUP amendment to add that, because that would be a whole other review with the fire inspector, since it would be a non-existing and a new placement of the tank.
I would make a motion to approve following planning and zoning's recommendations.
Second.
Moved to second, and any discussion? Roll call.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey?
Yes, motion carried.
Next on the agenda is LU-0113-22. Kevin Soley, on behalf of Basin Electric Power Cooperative, is requesting a zone change to heavy industrial for 6 18 to 20 megawatt natural gas reciprocating internal combustion engines, or RICE, as they will further be referred to. Or these are basically gas engines, as well as 2 F-class natural gas-fired simple cycle combustion turbines and an electrical switchyard. So if you're familiar with this area, Basin owns the property to the south, so it'll be a similar operation to what is existing out there. That's also why they won't have to be applying for a comprehensive plan amendment, is because they are adjacent to other heavy industrial uses. So from the site plan, you can kind of see that the majority of their operations will take place on the southern quarter section there, and they will access it from the east. I won't go into all of the specifics. Kevin may be on the line, so if you have really specific questions about RICE systems and gas engines, he'd be a better person to ask than me. They did provide a really good, I thought, well-described description of what the project is going to be. And then they do have future plans for transmission lines, but they'll have to come back and get a conditional use permit for those high power or high voltage transmission lines. Those are conditional use in heavy industrial zoning districts. So what we kind of looked at was the surrounding uses. There's a church within a quarter mile of the proposed facility. It's our recommendation, I guess interpretation, that we don't think it'll be necessary to install screening and buffering for this, but obviously in the end that's going to be up to you. Like I said, if you all are familiar with what is going on out there currently, it'll be just an extension of that. Dust, fumes, odors, smoke, vapor, noise, lights, and vibrations from any industrial operation shall be contained within the heavy industrial zoning district. So if neighbors or the township board or anybody out there is noticing that some of those things listed are occurring off-site, this will have the ability to come back before you guys and kind of reevaluate those uses. This will be on a section line, so all section line setbacks will be followed. It's that 133 feet back from the center of the section line. They will need Williams County Water Board approval because they'll be disrupting over an acre of land. And the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this on December 15th. They recommended the request 8-0, which was a unanimous recommendation. Also, the township recommended approval. And then there were 3 conditions listed with that recommendation: adherence to zoning ordinance, subdivisions, regulations, and then obtain approval from Williams County Water Resource Board. And then all approach permits will need to be obtained prior to any use.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve following the 3 conditions that planning and zoning set forth, and couldn't be more excited about the new 600 megawatts of power generation north of the river.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, next on the agenda, LU-0114-22, Mr. Aaron Trauger, on behalf of Plains Pipeline Montana LLC, is requesting a conditional use permit for the storage of bulk fuel. We have a few of those on the agenda today. So this will be for 2 95,000 barrel tanks for future pipeline capacity. This may look familiar because the applicant had previously been approved for the same conditional use permit in 2019. However, they just didn't begin construction on or placing those tanks until now. They would like to kind of revisit it now. So the subject property is within the heavy industrial zoning district, and then the storage tanks will require a conditional use permit. Mr. Trauger also provided a pretty thorough description of the project. There are 2 existing access points off of ND State Highway 1804 and then one off 48th Street. The driveways that are accessing onto pavement, so onto 1804, will have to be paved. And then the one that's accessing onto 48th Street is not a paved road, so they won't have to pave that, but they will have to construct it up to an appropriate standard for them to access onto that road. There will be no additional traffic added to this site as a result of the tanks. Additional crude oil will be coming in via pipeline to this site. The water board, went to the water board in 2019. The applicant did submit a de minimis effect study, and they received conditional approval. The conditional approval then gained full approval per Kevin Plouffe, the engineer on the Water Resource Board. I reached out to him, and he said, I looked at the plans, nothing's changing. So as long as they build the tanks to what was approved within the de minimis effect, they're good to go. And then just kind of more about the history of the property. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this last meeting. It was approved unanimously with 2 conditions: to construct and maintain all interior access ways, and then when accessing onto pavement, the approach must be paved, and then all on-site lighting shall conform to our subdivision regulations and zoning ordinance.
Anybody got any questions?
I'd make a motion to approve following planning and zoning recommendations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then finally, LU-0116-22, Ed Rintmaki on behalf of Carol Baldwin is requesting a zone change to rural residential for an approximately 18-acre lot that will be created through a minor subdivision. The parent lot is approximately 70 acres, and it's within that agricultural zoning district. The remainder will remain in the agricultural zoning district. The zone change will just be for the newly created 18 acres. No comment was received from township. Access to the 18-acre property will be off 53rd, and then the larger property is access off of 53rd or off of County Road 42. Planning and Zoning Commission heard this on December 15th and then recommended approval for the request 8-0 with 2 conditions. The first being adherence to subdivision regulations and zoning ordinance, and then 2 is recordation of the plat. The plat is attached to your packet.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve following the recommendations of the planning and zoning.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? Roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Next one, I believe Lindsay's not here, but there is, she sent us a report on the Family Crisis Shelter funding request. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read that email. It came in early this morning. So if I understand this right, this is just to approve that if it's there, it's the request for us to provide funding to the crisis shelter, correct? Helen, you want to help us out? So I don't just babble?
Yeah, this reflects what we talked about during the budget process. So the money is in the budget, but this is just the final approval for that document.
Okay, what are the wishes?
Mr. Chairman, organization agreement with the Opportunity Foundation and authorized chairman to sign.
Family Crisis Shelter.
Excuse me. Correct, I stand corrected.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Motion carried. Looks like you might as well stay.
That's why I stayed.
All right.
As you can see, I was unable to connect with Javane over the holidays, and so I don't have an answer yet to the health unit board member question. Water board will meet in January, so I'll bring that back to you at that time. And we don't have any positions that we're looking to fill, so I know. That's right. So I have nothing unless you have something for me.
No, thank you. Well, no further business on the agenda. Thank you, everyone. Meeting is adjourned.